I've been dealing with stress quite well up until that point. There was always going to be some level of stress with being involved in drugs anyway. We had an ID which missed us. It was really close. I mean, if I'd have known what would have been happening in the next 10 years, I would have stuck around. And as I look, and he pulls out his pills like a big meat cleaver out. And I said, whoa. And it was a case of ask no questions, don't tell any lies. And she got used to that being my life, because everything I was doing, I always had this other life that I was hiding from her. And then 2010 I went pro, and I was doing time attack saloon racing. I was working on the team in the British Drift Championship. I ran 3 cars in the BDC, which was amazing. And I thought, this is my life, this is it. I finally found something to replace the drugs. Waiting for that verdict to come through from the jury is horrendous. Then it's 15 years. And
wow,
the
that
rules,
was
yeah, I was expecting about
heavy.
12 would have been, in my mind, I calculated 12, but 15 was like, oh, that's a bit of a kick in the nuts.
Rightio. Welcome back to Experience Real Podcast. I'm here today with my guest, Rich Jones. You went from being in the British Army to being a cocaine kingpin, and now looking to become a podcast host yourself. So thanks for coming down, Rich. Appreciate it. Bit of a trek for you.
Yeah. I saw the postcode. I thought, Newport, I can't be too far. And then I thought, no, Newport, it's in the valleys.
Did you come down over the mountain?
Do you know what? I may well have done. I couldn't see because it was so pitch black. There's no ambient light, is there? So when I came off the motorway, it was just dark, really, really dark. And I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. So yeah, I got caught up by a couple of corners. I best slow down a little bit.
Yeah, that's all good, mate. You're here now, innit? That's the main.
Yeah, made it in one piece.
I'm glad we're doing it. To be honest with you, I started listening to you on the Chew the Chat podcast.
Yeah, really chilled out. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, really nice guy he was as well, wasn't he?
Sam's great.
I watched I think there was a clip, like a 20-minute clip.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, what I did is I watched like 10 minutes of it, and I was engrossed, and I thought, I'd have to like turn this off, and I'd rather like message you and try and have you on, because sometimes you can know too much, can't you? And then you go into it, and like I'd feel awkward asking you a ton of questions, knowing too much. So I think we'll just start afresh if that's cool. And
and there's so much I haven't covered yet. You know, there's areas of I've been on a few podcasts, and a lot of it is based on the criminality and the army and stuff like that. But there's areas we haven't even gone into yet.
Yeah.
So if you can find them, you can
right. Yeah. Let's have a look, innit?
Yeah. See if we can probe me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think every host gets something different out of every person, don't they?
Yeah, I think so.
You react differently to everyone in every different situation, don't they?
Yeah, and everyone's got their own agenda of their particular interest, haven't they?
Yeah,
they want to take it. So yeah, see where it goes.
Well, I always kind of like the story, you know, when someone is gone to like the depths of hell in a really bad place and they bring it back. It's something like special about that, and I don't know, it resonates with everyone, I think, doesn't it? Because everyone has dark days, and then when you see someone come back from that, I think it's an amazing thing.
I think once you've hit rock bottom and you've been, say, suicidal, which I have, and you finally break away from that and you start pushing forward, then you know you're motivated.
Yeah.
And if you've been there, and a lot of people will know that a lot of people have been there, it's a hell of a journey. But it's the downward slope is what's difficult. It's when you're in that decline into that pit of hell. That's what's difficult.
Yeah.
Coming out of it is hard, but when you know that you've gone past your worst, it can only get better. And that was my kind of look at it anyway.
Yeah. Well, I know, like I've felt like suicidal and stuff in the past, and on the way down, you don't even know it's happening.
No.
Like to you, it's only when you're trying to right yourself, you can see where the pitfalls were, see how things could start to go wrong again. Because I found like when I wasn't like an alcoholic or anything, but I was drinking like a lot, probably every weekend. You know, myself into a right rut, just didn't have any motivation in my life, and then it was only like on the way back up, you start really overanalyzing your life and thinking like, where did it all kind of go wrong, innit? And
and I think you do. For me, it was especially around about 2006. Again, this is when the book was written, and it was such a bad time, so much stress. I've been dealing with stress quite well up until that point. There was always going to be some level of stress with being involved in drugs anyway, but I managed it. But I think that it tipped me over the scales to the point where it was that much. Depression was so severe that it was severe depression, and I just didn't realize it was depression. I just thought, well, that's just stress. I can do this. I didn't know where my breaking point was, and I found it. I found that breaking point.
Yeah.
And it was like, shit, I'm in trouble now, and I didn't see any way out.
Yeah. I think we go back a bit now, is it, and then try to reconvening this point. But so if we take it back, Rich, obviously, tell us a little bit about you growing up and how you come to be in the army, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in 69, so yeah, I was born in the 60s. I just about crept in there by about 4 days. And I was in, and I said, I came from a good background. My dad had a good job in the police force, which is crazy. Some people might think, how did that work out? My mum and dad split up when I was 14, which had a massive effect on me. I think it affected my brother as well, but it didn't seem to affect him as badly as it affected me, unless I was wired up differently to him, because my brother's always managed to maintain some sort of normality in his whole life. But for me, I just went kind of started going off the rails at 14 or 15, and it just kept getting progressively worse. I wasn't academically, I guess, I wouldn't say I wasn't clever enough to pursue an academic career. I just wasn't interested in it. So I just lost the plot. I think I was bunking off of school. My exams were just a washout. So I was getting in trouble not with the police, but getting myself in trouble with my dad. I kept bunking off from work. I wasn't interested in the jobs I was doing. And I got to 18. My dad had remarried. And I was given a choice where I think if I don't do something, I'm going to probably end up in prison. Although the train of thought wasn't there at the time, in reflection, I think I would have done. So I just opted to join the army at 18, and I thought I'm going to give it a go. And it was a decision that I wasn't committed to that decision, because I wasn't really interested in getting in. I just wanted to try and see if it was going to be something that was for me. And I kind of thought I'll just take it one bit at a time. I'm not going to prep. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to apply for the army and just roll the dice to see where it goes.
Yeah.
And I got in. I got into basic training in May 1988, and then the culture shock hit me for basic training, and that was like back in the 80s when there wasn't any politically correct brigade. It was like, you're in trouble. Punching you and bullying you was all acceptable. So it was a really tough 8 weeks. But I wasn't on my own. I was with another 30 blokes who were going through the same thing. They were somewhat better prepared than I was, because I think these guys actually wanted to join the army.
They thought about it a little bit.
They considered the gravity of what they were taking on. Me, it was just like, what have I got to do? A bit of running, carry some weight. How hard can it be? It was tough. Yeah. It was really tough. And I'll never forget it. It was something that I think has such a profound effect on you. When you arrive at basic training, it was in Catterick, and it was warm, it was a nice day, and you just kind of, I think you're just seeing, because the intakes were every 2 weeks. So as you're going into your camp, you go into your barracks, and you're going for the various stages, you've got guys which are 2 weeks ahead of you, 2 weeks behind you, and you're seeing them doing these various things. You're thinking, I've got that coming yet. And there was the thing called the log run, and it wasn't a log, it was a telegraph pole. It was huge. And these guys and depending on how big your troop was, hopefully you hadn't been discharged or bought themselves out. As long as you had a good amount of blokes on a telegraph pole, you'd be okay. But it was a big old lump of wood. And
they're heavy as well. They were full of creosote as well, aren't they?
They are solid. And the problem you've got is, if you're really short, you're okay, because you got guys which are totally bridging the gap. So you're just like, you're not cold. You're just like pretending to hold the log. I was about the second or third tallest in the whole intake. So I was actually bearing a lot of weight of that log. So in order for that to balance, if you're tall, you got to stoop and bend your knees. So you're then trying to run with your legs are slightly bent, just so that the little guys can actually get a bit of weight of this log. So and I think you don't go too far with it. I think it may be about a mile or a couple of miles, but it was a tough run. And the log was called Ethel. I don't know why it's called Ethel. It's just called Ethel, and it was horrible.
Sounds like a kind of heifer's name, doesn't it? Like a big girl's name.
It was. Yeah, it was like carrying some big old girl. Yeah, it was brutal, mate. And that was probably one of the most memorable parts of that basic training, was knowing that you've got this log run coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like the gas chamber. You go in there, you get exposed to CS gas for the first time, and that was fun, but it's difficult, but it's kind of fun because you're all going in one or two at a time. So you're all being exposed to the gas. So you're hoping that someone's worse off than you are. So you go into like something not different than the studio, but it's like a big sort of like a very clear and blank room, purposely built for the CS, and you're standing there, and the troop sergeant will do it, and you've been in your respirators, and you've got you know you're okay, you've got your kit on, so you know it's sealed. And CS gas came in little tabs, like, and you'd light them, and it would kind of like a sort of almost like a firework, and it would get off this gas, and you feel the room slowly filling up with gas, and it gets thicker and thicker, and you can feel your neck where your NBC suit isn't sealed. You feel parts of your body stinging, where you've maybe had it because you've been told you have to shave anything which is bare flesh or something which has been slightly aggravated by maybe a razor. Because bear in mind, back in the days, razors weren't great. You'd feel the stinging of the CS gas. You're thinking, this is going to be uncomfortable. So in a minute, I'm going to have to take my mask off and to get a lungful of this stuff. So you knew that it was in there. You knew that it was damaged, not permanently damaged, but you knew it was going to do something. So then
it's pretty rough, isn't it?
Yeah. So then you do one at a time, and the aim was, and you see this in training videos. What you've got to do, the videos of the CS gas chamber, is you take your respirator off. And the aim is they need you to inhale that gas, just so you know what it's like. So you'll take your respirator off. They say, right, open your eyes, and you don't want to, but you do. You repeat your name, rank, and number, and you got to do it in one breath, because you got to take a deep breath, take it off, and you blurt it out. And they'll say, "Pardon?" You say that again. So what they want to do, they keep saying it until you have to breathe in, and then you get a lungful of it. And either you can deal with it, or you can't. And I was lucky. I although it was really aggravating, I could. It didn't sort of completely destroy me. And they said, go on, out you go. And you got guys who are going in and they just completely fold.
Is it luck or mindset, do you think, when it comes to that sort of thing?
I think it's luck. I think some people react to CS gas a lot more. Some people are immune to it. Our troop sergeant, the guy that was in there, he could take his mask off and he could talk to us in a chamber and not be bothered.
Yeah. Is that because of like constant exposure?
I think he's just got himself, he's built up his tolerance to it. I was okay after 2 or 3 chambers. I was relatively okay. I couldn't sit there and breathe like he did, but I wouldn't panic, because I knew that right, if you can breathe it in, it's going to aggravate your lungs. But if you panic and you start coughing, and you're going to take it in more, it's perpetual. You just get worse and worse. Some guys are literally running out of that chamber on all fours, of snorting, all sorts of stuff coming out of their face. They're in a right mess.
They do it on that SAS Who Dares Wins now, don't they? I think.
Yeah, same thing. It's great. I say it's great. It's how did he put it? It's character building is the word we used back then. You know, you've all gone through it. You've all been exposed to this stuff. So it part of that training is you all kind of go through this same experience, and you all build up together as a troop. So I enjoyed basically. Although I hated aspects of it, I enjoyed it because of what it did to me. It just changed me totally. It completely changed who I was. And then you pass out. I saw my dad for the first time in the 8 weeks, and he said, "You got taller." Literally, I got taller in 8 weeks because I learned to stand up straight. You know, they're so rigid about how they do your drill and everything else. So you do literally grow maybe up to an inch during basic training, which is incredible. Just by standing up straight so much.
Wild. You know, so when you were like 14 and you were starting to get yourself into trouble and all, do you find, because it was kind of similar for me at that age, I found like I was very malleable. I was like very much looking to fit in with the crowd rather than be my own person. I think that's a lot of, for me personally, that was a lot of any trouble I ever found myself in. I'm not blaming other people for it, but what I'm trying to say is I was definitely susceptible to want to be like other people, to try and fit in. Yeah. I don't know, was that like a same experience?
Similar, yeah. I think with me it was a classic case of the wrong crowd, but we were all a little bit at loose ends because none of us were really working. And they're saying that there are about 3 or 4 of us I would bunk off of school, and I'd go into town. And then what would happen, I'd meet lads who had been bunking off of school, and then I'd start going to work in some random crappy job, and I'd bunk off from that, and I'd go into town as well. And I was going to the arcades back in the days, and I was really into my gaming. So I would knock around the arcades all day, literally walking around, checking the slots in the arcades for any 10p's that had been rejected to play in the machines, and that was what I did. And a couple of lads used to go in there from all different walks of life, and we just sort of like get to know each other. And we became really good friends. And I think one of the lads there was actually he's a lifelong friend now. He was one of my co-defendants. And we just got to know each other. We literally met in 1986 in the arcades when I was bunking off of work, off of school. He wasn't working anyway, just couldn't be asked. And he just sort of formed this sort of friendship. And we just blindly leading ourselves through. We weren't necessarily getting into really heavy trouble, but we were starting to do things which we shouldn't have been doing. And I think it was just a case of I didn't want to be, I guess I aspired to do more, but not consciously. I just didn't want to be going down there and constantly going to arcades. Although I enjoyed it, I thought this can't be my life. I can't be doing this forever. So yeah, I think I would have ended up. We were all sort of, I think we're just, I guess, leading each other down a dark path at that stage.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You kind of egg each other on to do the next thing, don't you, or whatever it may be.
And it would have got heavier and heavier all the way through. So I think, let's get away from it when I can.
Yeah. So when you were after your basic training, then how long were you in the army? Was it 10 years? Or?
No, 7.5 years. I joined in 88, left in 95. So my service was good. I enjoyed it. I don't regret any of it. I thoroughly enjoyed going to Northern Ireland, not because of the political side of it, because of the risk side of it. I enjoyed being there because I enjoyed doing the job that we were paid to do, rather than sitting around in a naffy bar getting drunk on cheap beer all the time, which is what it predominantly was for a Cold War soldier. It was about getting drunk, and that's really what it was. So I enjoyed Ireland, and then I got promoted in 92, which was great. And then we amalgamated with a new regiment because there was a lot of defence cuts because of the collapse of the Cold War and the old Warsaw Pact and the Russians, and that was all over. So we did the UN in 93, 94, which was great. I enjoyed that. I was Cyprus for 6 months. And then it really fell flat because we'd missed the first Gulf War, which was in 1990 because we were in Northern Ireland at the time. And it fell flat. There was nothing going. I thought, it's kind of like, I think it had just plateaued. And the army wasn't really what it was, and promotion had slowed down, and I met a girl on leave, and all my friends in 94 were starting to dabble with drugs.
Yeah.
And although I was tempted, I did try a little bit of amphetamine on the odd leave every now and again, and I saw myself thinking, I can't do this. I can't combine these two lives because the army is going nowhere at the minute. It's say there's nothing going on. The chance of a guy who's in a tank regiment of going to Ireland again is unlikely. The chance of the Gulf War kicking off again, I can't ever see it happening. Who would have known? And then I thought, I've met this girl. I thought, there's too many things going in favour of getting out. And then all my mates were having a really good time on leave. So I loved going on leave. I used to literally drive home from Germany to go home for a night.
Yeah.
And I would drive like a 1,600-mile round trip for a night out.
Yeah. So just going back then to you, did not a lot going on in the army.
No.
Like at the time, were you hoping there was going to be things going on just for that excitement?
I would have, if I'd have known, if hindsight had come in, if I'd have known what would have been happening in the next 10 years, I would have stuck around. I would have said to this girl I'm seeing, look,
what's that for, like Iraq and all that sort of?
Yeah, I would have stayed because all my lads, we went to Northern Ireland again, to Belfast in 1999. Some of our guys went to Kosovo in 97. Which wasn't a good place to go. I've not heard anything good about that tour. We had lads which were getting assigned to doing attached to special forces. We had some of the guys were doing some really good work, and I was in reconnaissance, so I could have stood a chance if I got my fitness up together of doing things like that. And I was gutted I missed that. I've got friends who've served who've done some really good work, and then of course they've done Iraq, and it was just I've got a couple of medals. My guys that stayed in for 3 years, they've got medals going off past their shoulder. Yeah. I thought, Christ, you need someone help with you those. They look a bit heavy. And I do envy it. I respect, I'm so proud of what they've achieved while I've been away. And I feel like I've really fallen a long way from the tree with regards to my powers with my 2 little medals. And I think, but no, that was the time I served. No, I shouldn't really regret my decisions. I just really gutted I wasn't there with them, because you feel like, because we lost a few guys. We lost a couple of lads over in Iraq, and you kind of feel like you should have been there as well. It's something called survivor's guilt. Although I wasn't there, I wish I was. I wish I'd been there with my mates.
I had a chap in here, Jack Marshman. Don't know if you've heard of him. UFC fighter. But he was in the para regiment, and he talked a little bit about that. It's like a band of brothers. You don't want to be away from it, really.
No. Once you knew they were there, because our bonding when we were in Northern Ireland, the bonding, it kind of galvanised what we already had. It made it so much stronger, because you're with a team of guys, and you are under threat. There is a chance you're going to die. There's a really good chance you're going to come unstuck, and that kind of really sort of pulls you so much closer together, especially when you're sat in your little base in the middle of bandit country in Ireland, and then you hear some automatic gunfire go across the top of your camp, and we were sort of like we stood too, because you get your helmets on, you're literally in your tracksuits, you put your flat jacket on, your bulletproof vest with your Kevlar plates, you grab your gun, you go outside, and you take your post, and then you heard from the top sanger, "Oh, sorry lads, that was me." One of our own lads had let off the GPMG from the top sanger by mistake. He'd sent 3 or 4 rounds off across the local village. What he'd done, I think he hadn't cleared the gun. He was checking it, and he'd squeezed a couple off by mistake. So of course we were gunfire. We were well excited. There we go. This is it. We're being attacked.
I was going to say, I can tell the excitement in you now a little bit.
Oh mate, we were like, God, this is great. This is it. We're going. We've got some activity now. It was my mate.
Did you ever get into anything like that out there?
No, we had an ID which missed us. It was really close. It was called the TASER Road bomb, and that I think it was November or October 1990. It wasn't the back end. It was near in the back end. Well, no, it was halfway through, and a bomb had gone off on TASER Road, and it had taken out a car, and we were tasked to go out to that because it was within our province, so we had to go out to secure the area, search the area for any proof of the firing point, try and find some sort of not evidence but forensics, if you like, to try and see if we could locate what had happened. So the helicopters came in, picked us up from our base. We flew out in Pumas, dropped off near where the explosion had gone off, and the job was then you literally get 3 teams of, say, maybe more than 3 teams of 4 guys, and we group and we satellite out from where the bomb went off. We just spiral around and we just slowly move outward, slowly, until we find some sort of evidence. So we've been there about 20 minutes, and we'd sort of come round past where the idea had gone off. And we were I remember I was just on the top of this hill, looking down, this big, massive explosion goes off again, and I look round, and then there's a massive cloud of dust and smoke going up in the air. So the second one had gone off, and it was about 100 metres away. And it was a secondary device was planned for us. So what I'd done, they timed it to go off 45 minutes after the first bomb had gone off. So we were lucky, because we landed earlier, we managed to sort of secure the area, and we'd moved out from where the secondary device was, and we were just further away than they'd hoped we were going to be. So yeah, it missed us by about 100 metres, and it was a £500 bomb. It was a big one as well.
Is that like common for them to do a secondary device to try?
It should be, but it was our only incident we'd had with the guys with an IED. We had one on the way in. Once on the first day, one had gone off below the helicopter on the flying in, but luckily we didn't have to deploy to that one. We were ready to deploy. Yeah. But that was our first major incident which we had to deal with.
Mind my ignorance, what does IED stand for?
Improvised explosive device. You're testing me now, though. So yeah.
But if you struggle to know, I'm definitely not going to know.
Yeah, well, we've got kit. We used to carry kit with us, which would protect us from that. So we used to have things called ECM, which means electronic countermeasures. So I'd have a thing called the Antler, and it's a heavy bit of kit, but it's a jamming device. And what it would do is it would send out a signal from antenna, and it would put like an umbrella over the top of you, and it would just jam any signals from someone trying to trigger something by radio. So anything goes on within 100 metres, it won't work. And I've got an earpiece that will give me a tone if something's gone wrong. So I'd have one of those, and we'd have a couple of other guys in the team would have something called like a violet joker, and that just picks up signals. Doesn't jam it, but picks up if someone's trying to do something. And there's a white sifter's another one. All of these are kind of passive. Mine was an active jammer, but this, because it was triggered on a time delay, it went off anyway.
Yeah, there's no stopping that. Yeah.
No, it's going to go off anyway. So we were kitted up for anything which could be, if we were walking across the fields and someone's watching, and if they there they are, and I pushed the button now, my kit would jam that. But it weighs a ton. It wasn't a light bit of kit. Spare batteries as well. So it's like the batteries are slightly smaller than the car batteries. So that sort of weight of the battery alone, then the kit itself weighs about twice as much as that. So
surprising, all these things, like just as a general civilian, you'd never know, innit?
No, it's so interesting. It's heavy. You're burgundy. You're looking at the weight you carry, and you're probably carrying it's got about 40 odd kilos of weight.
Yeah, that's a fair stack.
Yeah, with your weapon as well on top of that, and your helmet, and of course we're an old-fashioned kit from the 90s. It's not exactly light, and then it rains, it all gets wet, and it gets heavier again. So yeah, it's not light.
Ireland's not exactly the. I'm sure it's raining more than it's sunny as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not exactly flat, but it was. I enjoyed it once you got used to carrying that weight. The only bits that are interesting is when you come across an electric fence, and you've got a team of guys, and you've got to get over. You can't go through gates because gates could be targeted, they could be vulnerable, so you can't go over gates. You have to climb fences. Some of these fences are rigid, and they've got some proper voltage going through. They're not talking 12 volts, they're talking a little bit more. And you just get a thing called disco leg. And if it's a loose fence and you're going over there and you've got 40 kilo on your back, and you got your leg on the fence, the leg starts going, and you're trying to go over, and next thing you've fallen over. And if it's an electric fence, you've got guys who've fallen back, legs are stuck, and the electric fence is underneath their knees, and it's pinging them every 2 or 3 seconds, and we're just sat there laughing at them. So you got, and of course you grab the rail to help out, and then you're getting shocked as well.
Yeah. Oh, so they're grim, aren't they?
Yeah. We used to love them. Yeah, love them and hate them, electric fences. But some of them were pretty strong. We'd have some where you sit and hold each other's hands, and grab someone at the end, and I'd just grab the fence, send the shock right through all of you. Yeah, funny games.
Some of the best viral videos on the internet are electric fence ones, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
See that girl touch her ass on when she's just gone head first straight into her like a cow pat.
Yeah, no.
It's hilarious. But so you've gone from being in the army, then you're looking to leave.
So
you want to get back into like going out on the nights out, being social, that sort of thing.
It was a combination. So I wanted to sort of make a relationship work. A lot of guys leave the army because they meet someone and they don't necessarily want to bring their girlfriend. And I suppose love hurts, doesn't it? When you meet someone, is it love or is it lust? You never get past that honeymoon phase, because you go and leave. And I was in Germany, you kind of meet someone, you're with them for maybe 3 or 4 days, or maybe a couple of weeks, and it's a whirlwind, isn't it? You first meet someone, then you go back to Germany, you think, you're pining for them. There's no mobile phones. You're talking about standing in, queuing up to a public phone box in your camp with 5 Deutschmarks before the euro come out, and putting your 5Ds in the phone, and you have a quick phone call, and you find out they're not in or they're busy, and so then, as a young man, you get quite frustrated with that. So I thought, you got a choice. You don't want to suddenly get married and bring them over, because a lot of young guys do get married just to get a pad. They get given a house by the army, and they bring this poor young unsuspecting young lady into that community, and then they've got to live that community. So you're kind of exposing them to the military life, and that might not be what they're ready for. They haven't. That's not what they've joined up for. They've not gone through basic.
They still do that now, though, don't they?
Yeah, still do it. Yeah, I saw a lot of them aren't prepared or aren't ready for it. It might seem like an adventure sometimes, but they can get really influenced, and it can be really cliquey as well. Because you've got a lot of wives who are there who some of them think they carry the same rank as their husband, so they automatically assume the pecking order is they're in charge or they're the boss, but it's not easy for them. So some of them don't like that. So I thought, I can't really do that to the girl I met at the time. So I opted to get out. I thought, let's just knock it on the head. So I went in for a resettlement of a close protection course with ex-SBS. Did this course, took about 4 weeks. Really good course, taught you some really good stuff. A lot of different drills of doing bodyguard work and surveillance and counter surveillance, hostage rescue, all these different things that they would have done in their job when they're door kicking, all the stuff they've learned in their special forces, they're sort of like applying that to close protection skills. So we learned all that in 4 weeks. We didn't learn everything, but we learned some of the good stuff.
Yeah. Great
course. So I got out of the army in 95, and it was, I got a cash job straight on the door in Bristol, which was fine. I mean, mate of mine got me some work doing some CP work. We were doing stuff with Top Guard. We did some boxing venues, and we did some work with Oasis in 96. And we did a few bits and bobs. Nothing solid, but there's a few little bits and bobs. But our main job was surveillance. And I got a really good job doing surveillance. Literally from, I think after about the first or second month of coming out of the forces, I was doing a surveillance job with ex-police force, with my dad. Guy used to be in the SAS, he was there as well. I had a guy from HMRC. So it was a fairly good team. But yeah, I enjoyed surveillance. It was really good.
Yeah.
A lot of work over here in the valleys, actually.
Was it?
A lot of scamming insurance.
There's a lot of people stealing like from just everywhere around here anyway, to be honest with you. Like vans, cars, houses.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like theft going on in this area.
Well, this is like a private company. So we did a lot of work for insurance companies. So people who were doing, say, fraudulent claims for broken backs, wheelchair bound, or not so much whiplash, because we'd get given a job, any job where they're claiming over 50 grand, they would then put a surveillance on that person to make sure if they're genuine. It's worth them spending 2 or 3 grand on surveillance over a couple of years to see if they're for real, rather than there's your money. Yeah. So they would put someone like us on the job, and we would be outside someone's house.
I bet that is quite interesting, isn't it?
That's great fun. I loved it. I felt a bit rotten now and again, but you know what? Let's say I did 100 jobs. Probably wasn't far off that. I reckon out of those 100 jobs, there was one genuine person I come across. Yeah. I'm not saying that everyone else hadn't been involved in an accident and they hadn't had some kind of injury, but we'd be given a brief on the nature of the injury and the nature of the restrictions that they say they have to their life to qualify for this claim. So they might say, well, look, I can't carry bags. I can't change a wheel on my car. I can't drive further than this. I can't go shopping and carry more than 2 bags at once for further than 10 meters. So you can carry the bags from your car to your house. So we say, well, this is what they're saying they cannot do. So we can't use entrapment. That's illegal. So we couldn't go out there and say, puncture their tyre and make them change a tyre. We've got to watch them. So we'd have the guy from the regiment in the SAS. He would be sat in the back of the van because he would sit in a hole in the middle of nowhere. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
So he would sit in the back of the van, and it'd be a plain nondescript van. Excuse me a sec. And he would literally be watching the house. We'd have 2 cars plotted up, say the end of the road, off just slightly off plot. One to be me, one to be the guy who runs the company, ex-copper. And we just sit in there all day, and he would wait for the van man. So he's got the eyeball. He's watching the house. He's watching for the target. And he'd be sat there in his car reading a magazine, sleeping, and just waiting. And next thing you get stand by. I think, here we go. This is it. We're going to move now. So we prep up. So one of us would be facing different ways. And I need to say, right, target's left the house. Target is wearing blue jeans, green top. He's about 6 foot tall. He'd just do a description of the target. He's carrying a bag of golf clubs. We're thinking, he said he can't play golf. This is great. So you're thinking this is the one. So this is something normally happens. So if someone's claiming for, say, a bad back, I say I can never play golf again. I can never play golf because my back is destroyed. And they put a set of golf clubs in the boot, or the golf clubs are already in the boot. So a target has left the left house, is getting in the car, and it'll give them a description of the vehicle. We already know the car because but we need to know that he's getting into the same car. So you've got a mental image of this. And he would describe everything that he can see through his back of his van whilst filming it on a camera. As soon as he goes, target is off, and he's leaving the road. So we think, right, okay. So then I'd be picking up the sort of eyeball now on the exit of the street, or my boss would. Either of us would see, depending whether he turns left or right, depends who picks up the follow.
Yeah.
So we'd see, right, he's going by. So eyeball's mine, target's gone left, onto the road, and they're heading off in whatever direction. And then I would then give a commentary following that car, and I would follow it for as long as it's keeping going it's not turning off anywhere. I could stay on it for a few miles. It wouldn't matter because I wouldn't compromise myself. But if that car turns left, then maybe it goes right, and I thought, well, I've had to follow it 2 or 3 turns now. I would then say, right, the guy in the car behind, I would then turn off and make sure that the car from either sees me turn off or that the boss behind me can pick up the follow. He will pick up the follow. I will then come back out and follow him. And we do that. And I love doing something because it's the thrill of the chase.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where they're going. They could be going to local shops, but everything we do is filming them. So the cameras we're using back in 95, they're like this big. They're not small. They're like, you've got to literally put them on your shoulder. they're massive. So trying to hide a camera of that size is really tricky. So my job was the footman as well. So I'd be the one that if they did get out of their car and go in the supermarket, I'd have to bail out of that car with the camera, which we had modified into an old-fashioned lunchbox. It had a handle on it, and it's little things you take to build. It's like a big old, not metal, but it's like a sort of like a plasticky kind of cargo thing.
Yeah.
And he cut a hole in front of it about this big for the lens, and it's clearly a camera, but it's better than carrying a camera. So if they went into a shop, I would think, they go into, say, Asda. I'd get my bag. I got my ear mic in my ear, and I got my microphone pinned up there, and I'd be wired up. And I follow them into the shops, and I get a little trolley, and I put the camera straight into the trolley, right to the front, so the lens doesn't focus on the bars of the trolley, and I literally have the trolley facing the target. I'll be grabbing all sorts of crisps and bread off the trolley just to cover the camera up, and I'd hide it, and I'd literally follow them around. And sometimes if they stop, I'd put the trolley there, and I'd walk off. I could look somewhere else and let the camera just film the whilst we're on the avenue, and then they come back, right, they've gone, I grab the trolley, run around again. So I really enjoyed the thrill of the chase. So surveillance was really good fun.
Did you ever get caught out?
Yeah, I got compromised once. We followed some guy from Bristol to Exeter, and he's playing golf, and he wasn't hanging around. He was driving like a lunatic. He was in a Vauxhall Omega 3 litre. I remember it, a silver Vauxhall Omega 3 litre. So I was behind it. Now, I'd lost my boss, so I had to literally chase him. And he didn't do the motorways. He went down all the A roads. So he obviously clearly enjoyed the drive. And we followed him all to this, I think it was Exmouth, I think. And he went to a golf club in Exmouth. I thought, this is brilliant. So I was phoning my boss, so that I've housed him at a golf club. He said, right, great, get out of there, get on foot, and get some footage of him playing golf. I thought, yeah, no problem, that's fine. So I remember it was a summer. I was in shorts, and I had a little t-shirt on, and I was following this guy across this golf club. Oh, sorry, a golf course. Of course, it's quite hilly, and there's little bunkers. So I'm not back in the army. I'm sort of crawling around. I got my camera filming him, and he's swinging away. And I thought, this is great. This is gold. He's really going for it now. And what I didn't realise is I was so blinkered filming the guy playing golf that the people behind them, which were following them, were watching me filming them, and I was just completely unaware of it. So next thing I know, these guys are there. I'd shouted out to them, so there's someone filming you. And they looked over, and this guy dropped his clubs, and he gave chase.
Did he? Yeah. Shit, that was even better, was it?
Yeah, that's what I got to go. So I've now packed I've got my camera, and I'm just running. I'm in lightweight order. I haven't got any of me mics on because I'm just filming them anyway. So I'm now legging it back to the car, hoping I can get away with it, and I'm just gone. I think he gave up after about 100 meters. I was just.
His back was it, was it?
Yeah, his back give it. Yeah, I know his back was a bit. Of course, he didn't know who I was. He must have tweaked. Who was that filming me? So yeah, I got back, but I got some footage of it, so it was fine. Yeah, but it's close. I nearly got chopped up by a machete over in Caerphilly, not a million miles from here.
Really? Yeah, that's not far. Yeah.
Yeah, we did a job. It was golf. It was a driving range, and I followed this guy there. Me and my boss housed him, and I went to the driving range, which was fine. And my boss said, "Let's go round the side of the range." And there was a hedge with a little fence by the side. It was like a wooden picket fence. I can climb up that fence, and I can just about see over the top of this hedge to the guys teeing off. So I got the camera, and I'm sat there filming away. And I thought, I'm zoomed in. I thought, I'm hoping I've got the right guy. I'll just film all of them for now, and then maybe they can see he's wearing the right jumper. And I could hear running to my right. Some guy's approaching me. I thought, it's probably a boss coming to see how I'm getting on. So I'm just carrying on filming. Some guy, I won't do the accent. So he said, "So who are you filming, mate?" And I looked around. I thought, oh God, this fucking great big guy. I thought, he's a lump. And I got down. I said, "No, what, mate?" He said, "Who are you filming?" And he's coming towards me. And as I look, and he pulls out his pills like a big meat cleaver out. And I said, whoa. So I got the camera, dropped the camera down, and I started filming him to get, in case he does kill me, at least I got it caught on camera. Or if he tries to attack me, I got it. I thought, right, what have I thought, right, I've got to de-escalate this. If he comes at me, I'm pretty sure I can defend myself, but let's just de-escalate it first. I said, look, mate, let's not get silly about this. And he said, who are you filming? Who are you to do with? Are you part of the golf club? I said, look, so I'm filming with Dad. So my dad's got his wager on, and he said he's playing golf. He said he doesn't need to train to practice. So we're catching him out. He said he can. So basically, I was waffling. So basically, I tried to say that my dad's had a bet with someone, and he didn't need to practice playing golf. And we're trying to catch him on the driving range to see if he's cheating. He said, "So you don't play golf for yourself?" I said, "No." I said, "My dad don't even use the place. He just found somewhere out of the way. We followed him down there." He said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Right, okay." And he put the meat cleaver back down, and he wandered off. And we spoke to my boss later on, but I think my boss spoke to him on the way out, and we found out that the guy that was there, he owned this field next to the golf club. And although there were no crops there, what had been happening is the golfers had been slicing their balls and going over the fence into his field, what used to be the crops. I think he'd had it out with some of the members there, where they'd been going and probably sort of smashing down his, or maybe people from the golf club themselves coming to retrieve their balls back, smashing down his crops, retrieving all their balls and going over there. So I think that's
you almost just got caught up in a random
mess.
I got
caught up in it. Yeah, it was like collateral damage to me. But I thought he had this thing, and he was coming at me. I thought he's clearly unhappy. I think he'd been probably trimming the hedges with this knife. But yeah, it looked a bit threatening. He wasn't exactly a small guy either.
Yeah, I bet you could get yourself into some proper sticky situations with that, couldn't you?
Yeah, I've had a few, mate. I've been in a few sort of potentially.
I bet. Yeah,
threatening situations.
So where was the turn then? Because that's obviously all straight and narrow.
Yeah, so it's kind of going on at the same time. So while all this was going on with surveillance job, my surveillance job went on for about a couple of years, maybe I think about 18 months. I was doing really well for 18 months, and it kind of started breaking down a bit in the last sort of 6 months, the back end of 96, early 97. It started getting a bit ropey because I was becoming less available. So my partying and clubbing was getting a bit heavy. So I was doing the door work in 95, I was rewinding a little bit. And what I found was all my mates were going out and they were having a really good time partying. And I was doing the door and I wasn't really happy. Why am I stood here on the door? And everyone's having a good time. So I got a bit annoyed with the fact that I'm only getting paid 15, 20 quid a night. It's not really very much money, and I really want to enjoy myself. So I kind of started going clubbing with mates on a Saturday, and they introduced me to ecstasy, which they were all doing. And I was doing a bit of amphetamine at this point, and I was just quite satisfied with that. And they were all doing pills, and I thought, and in the end I just folded. And my mate said, look, do you want to do a pill? And I thought, yeah, but why not? I may as well. And he went and got me one. He was back with me in like 5 minutes, and he gave me this. He was called a dirty dollar. Never forget it. And I remember his voice because he was off his tits at the time. I said, what is it? It's a dirty dollar. I thought, okay. He said, and before he said it, it was gone. I'd necked it. And half hour later on, my whole world just completely changed. It just transformed. And not that I realised it then, but what it did for me is it helped me to switch off completely of all the hypervigilance and the training and the awareness and all of the stuff that I've been trained to identify as vulnerable spots. So when you're doing security, you're assessing everything. You're assessing the fire exits, you're assessing the doors, you're assessing the people, you're assessing the toilets, who's gone in, who's coming out. This software in the back of your mind is constantly running. That pill switches off. It shuts it down. You can switch it back on if you want to constantly, but the pill allows you to switch it off completely. Drink doesn't switch it off. Drink just gets me drunk and makes me more aware of things. But ecstasy switches off for me, and I didn't realise this. It really only came to me about a year ago that this is what was happening. So for me, it was like a form of medication, but it also was a way for me to. And again, this is subconsciously, it allowed me to build this world around me, because I got involved in selling the pills fairly soon after a few months, because my mate that was getting them for us, his ass went, he didn't want to get them anymore, which is fair enough. So I thought, well, I'll do it, and I was happy to go and grab them because it wasn't the riskiest thing I'd done. I'd done much more dangerous things, so grabbing 5 pills wasn't really a problem. Yeah. And to earn a free pill on top of that was a nice byproduct, I think, of that. So I was just sorting my mates out, literally in the club. Literally 4 friends I was sorting out with these pills, and this had created a bit of a knock-on effect that people around us noticed that we were having a good time, and they said, where'd you get pills from? I said, I got them. I said, right, can you get me one? I said, well, yeah, I'll sort you out next week. And this kind of snowballed a little bit in that club, and what I did is I built this lifestyle of culture around me. Although it was going on anyway, I found myself for the first time in a very long time being a focal point. I didn't want to be the centre of attention, but I just wanted to be a part of something. And for me, when I was coming on leave, I wasn't a part of that environment. Although I was happy, and my mates were all very welcoming and accommodating and very friendly, I never felt like I belonged because I didn't. I belonged in the army. I didn't belong there. I didn't belong with these guys. They weren't weren't really wired up the same way. So I kind of, by selling pills and people coming to me, and they were around me, and we sort of focused, we sort of congregated in the same part of this club. This is all part of me. This is something I had grown myself. I kind of grew this culture around me.
You filled a gap that was needed.
Filled the gap, yeah. The
void accepted.
The void was being filled, and for me it was a nice void because I was switching off, but at the same time I was applying all these skills I got from the army, but whilst I was smiling and happy. So it was a really, without condoning it, was a really fun time. It was we just didn't care. I say there were a few of us, or a few squaddies of us knocking around, or 3 of us, and we didn't care about anything. It was just so much fun.
You know, now, do you still have that hypervigilance? Are you still analysing everything?
Always. I know I'm doing it, but I don't know I'm doing it. Yeah. So I'm quite glad we're facing the door.
Yeah.
Things like that. I only had sat down with a friend of the family last week. We were having a meeting, and we went into Costa and we sat down. He's the same as he wrote a book called Course on Chopper. He's ex-police, ex-bodyguard, everything else. And he automatically, I'm grabbing the coffee. He sits down facing the door. So I grabbed the coffee, sat down. He said, you're right not facing the door? I said, that's fine. I got a reflection behind you. I can see the door behind you. He said, right, we're okay then. And it automatic. He knew what I was like, and I knew what he was like. So yeah, but I don't feel, it doesn't govern me anymore. I can go into a bar, restaurant, anywhere now and not worry. I can sit on my back to the door, I'm okay. Yeah. I know it's not a problem. I know there's no one going to come bursting through. It's going to cause me an issue. I hope not anyway. So I'm fine with it. Whereas before I couldn't. I'd have to face the door. I'd have to see outside. I'd have to have my arcs covered as such, but I'd have to see where the toilets are as well. Because I'd need to know if someone's gone past me, I need to know where they've gone. I need to know if they've gone, right, where are they? Why are they still in the toilet? Have they left the bag in there? If they've gone over the bag, why haven't they got the bag? No, so that's the sort of things I'm looking for. If someone's on the train when I was come on my day release from prison and a guy left his bag on the train next to me and all that, my head's going 10 to the dozen. He's just gone to the toilet, but he left his bag there. I'm thinking, I'm giving him 5 more minutes. If he's not back, I'm going to report it. I'd have to. Or I'm going to sling it out of the train. It's going to get launched out of the window.
From all like kind of the trauma of seeing these things happen in other countries or being trained for it then. Yeah,
that's it. You're constantly drilled in the army to be constantly vigilant, and they make you think that because our threat was the IRA, and everything we did was about vigilance, and you parked your car in a certain way. Every time we went into camp, our car was searched underneath with mirrors. Everything we did for all that time was vigilance. It's drilled into you. It doesn't go. And the thing is, because your brain is still developing up to about the mid-20s, all through my military career from 18 to 25, my brain was developing, learning this, becoming hardwired into me.
Because they reckon your brain is like 2 parts, your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're packing your brain full of subconscious information. At the time was conscious, but you've done it so much that you've wrote a code in your brain saying this is how you act, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hardwired in there, and I will never be able to get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's part of me now, and it's part of any soldier or anyone that serves, anyone at any age up to the point of, they say 25. I think it's your prefrontal cortex, which is developed. Your learning is still really developing at that stage. That's why the army prefer to recruit you at a younger age, so you're more, like you said, malleable. They're easier to train you, and you learn quicker.
They reckon something like I think it's the first 2 hours in the morning and the 2 hours before you go to bed at night. You're in a different state of brainwave, it's theta wave, and I think you can, depending what you consume or what you do in them hours, you can slowly chip away at that subconscious mind. If you like get into a state of meditation or visualization, they reckon you can chip away at it and kind of rewrite that code, but it takes a lot of time, I think.
I think that makes sense, because I know I've had treatment for PTSD with something called EMDR, and there's some really clever music called EMDR therapy music, and my friend, and I guess, can I call him a therapist? I'm going to call him a therapist, not that I have got one, but he says if you've got PTSD, listen to this therapy music. It's on Spotify. 20 minutes in the morning when you wake up, 20 minutes before you go to bed, and then it will help to subconsciously rewire your brain. It will begin to prepare you for main treatment, but it also helps. So it's really good. If anyone's suffering with anxiety or stress or PTSD, Google it, find it, get it on Spotify, get it on YouTube, find that music and just plug it into your headphones, listen to it for 20 minutes at least twice a day. It can change your life. It's phenomenal stuff.
Change your life?
EMDR, incredible.
Yeah. I've never heard of that before. That's interesting.
Really. So it means, if I get it right, it means eye movement, desensitization, reprocessing. So what it's doing is, if you've got PTSD, you've got a traumatic event. So what happens is, PTSD is formed from something which is naturally traumatized you. So let's say you've seen a car accident, you've seen something horrific. You've seen that, at the same time you're struggling to deal with it. So you have something called triggers. Let's say that trigger might be the smell of petrol. So every time after this event you smell petrol, that event traumatizes you. You remember that event, that becomes a traumatic side of what you've seen. So it's post-trauma. To deal with that, what EMDR does is it works on the left and right side of the brain. So what's happened with this traumatic event, your brain hasn't put it away properly. It hasn't stored that memory in the correct place. So every time you get a trigger, this memory surfaces and traumatizes you. It can be quite debilitating as well. So EMDR works with either someone waving a hand or with a light on a strobe. Like hypnosis with the pendulum effect, what it's doing is accessing your left and your right side of the brain. At the same time, you're either tapping your hands, looking left and right, or you've got like a pebble, and it vibrates in your hand, synchronized with this light. And what it does, all they ask you to do is think of your traumatic event, and whilst you're looking at these lights, and you're literally hypnotizing yourself. And for me, my traumatic event, it was a few things that happened quite some time ago. I can't really go into it. It was pretty bad. And it meant that I had serious anxiety associated with certain things. And after 5-10 minutes of this first bit of strobe, and I was trying to remember this. It was a particular phone call I had to remember. I kept repeating this conversation, this phone call over and over and over again. What happened is a phone call. Eventually, these threats that I'd heard, which were very severe, began to diminish slowly. And after 10-15 minutes, I couldn't remember what the words were. I had to think hard to think, what were they? And then we stopped this particular session. Right, how do you feel? I said, well, I feel okay. So let's do another one. Another one was people knocking on the door. And that was quite simple for me. If anyone knocks on the door for me and I'm not expecting someone, it's either going to be someone to kidnap me or my wife and kids or rob me, or it's going to be the police. It's never going to be good news. So mine was a knock on the door, and I had to visualise the same thing of knocking on the door. And the same thing, 15-20 minutes, it just faded down and it wasn't a problem. And then after that was done in June 2020. I've not felt anxiety since. I've not even been anxious, not once.
That's crazy.
I'm not even bothered about knocks on the doors. Hypervigilance isn't as much of a problem, but I do not suffer anxiety. It's completely gone.
15-20 minutes of your life and
literally
changed everything.
Yeah, and if anyone is suffering with PTSD or anxiety, look up EMDR. It's something I'm gonna train to deliver it on a. I'm not qualified to deliver EMDR, or won't be qualified to deliver it for therapy, as in for mental health. But I can deliver it for performance enhancement, because it also rewires your brain, and it's like defragging your brain. It takes all the stuff out you don't need, and it can increase your memory capability. It can increase your train of thoughts, your brain patterns. It's really clever stuff. Yeah. Really clever. It's very evasive, but if it works really well.
We need to clip this and post this out there, because I'm sure there's a load of people who are struggling with, like you say, if you can use it performance enhancing as well, that's massive, isn't it? Because for me personally, I feel like I got quite a good relationship now with exercise. I don't drink, I don't smoke, anything like that, but I'm terrible with food. And I'd love to be able to do something to try and rewire my brain to look at it in a different way, because I don't know what it is. I'm just like, I'm going to eat well, and then I could just crack like that instantly. Do you know what I mean? And everything changes.
Honestly, I love food. Food's great.
Yeah. Maybe you don't want to do it with it then.
Put it back in there. I want to eat more food.
Yeah. Well, you don't seem to struggle with your weight anyway. You're looking.
Oh, I did, mate. I was really big when I went to prison. I was like 17, 18 stone.
Yeah.
I was carrying a lot of a very unhealthy lifestyle. Really unhealthy lifestyle.
How tall are you?
6 foot.
Oh, you can get away with it a bit better.
Just carry it off.
I'm about 17 stone now, so it's not a pretty sight, but
it changed. But that's prison. Prison changes life, though. You go away. It's life changing.
Yeah, I bet. So, rightio. So where are we at? We're at kind of the changeover for you, isn't it?
Yeah. So I've been selling these pills in a club since really more or less for the month. A couple of months after I got out, it wasn't long. And I met my then wife in 1998. I met the woman that's going to be my wife, and I was still clubbing. I met her in a club that I was going around dealing, but it was quite difficult because she came from a different circle, so she didn't really know what's going on. She just saw me in this group of people, and it looked really nice and friendly, and we met her and we got on really well. And I know she fell pregnant fairly quickly. And I think it was definitely planned. But for me, it was maybe a cry for help, in a sense of I was really spent 3 years at that point of getting completely hammered. And it was 3 nights a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, taking lots of ecstasy, started to take cocaine, smoking lots of pot, incredibly unhealthy lifestyle. And I think the thought of suddenly bringing a child into the world was really irresponsible, but at the same time life-changing. So she fell pregnant with our now oldest, who's now 22, and we had our oldest son in October 99. And literally the minute she fell pregnant, we found out in Feb of that same year. I hadn't worked because I've not done, the Svennis was gone. That was finished, a year and a bit before that. So within a month I found a job. I actually had a job driving a delivery van. So I thought, this is it, I'm sorting myself out. So and I said this on another interview, said, trouble with me stopping going out taking ecstasy on the weekend is I suddenly woke up and I had clarity. And I found out that there was a Monday and a Tuesday and a Wednesday in a week. Before, they were spent recovering and getting over and coming down and recovering. And I thought, wow, hang on, wow, Monday, what's that all about? And Tuesday. And so all of a sudden on motivation, I thought, I've got a son on the way now. And this job working for this textiles company, delivering laundry, it was relatively low pay, but it was covering the bills, which is all that mattered. I said, but it's not enough. I need more money. And then I was still selling ecstasy at the time, but I had this delivery van. This is great. I can use this for delivering my drugs.
The cover up on the go, isn't it?
Perfect.
Yeah.
I've got bundles of tea towels here, which I can use to hide the drugs with. And I'm never going to get pulled. This is great. So it expanded because I was suddenly motivated, and I had a reason for motivation. It was my son. And yes, it pushed me in the wrong direction, but I didn't know anything else. It was what I knew, and it's what I was comfortable doing. So I really just but I was never making loads of money. It was just existing. It was making a bit, losing a bit, making a bit. Because what people have to understand is when you're getting involved in different natures of drugs, you're meeting different natures of criminal. And there was a few gangsters in amongst these circles, and a few difficulties, and you've got to navigate your way through this really treacherous minefield of really potentially explosive people, but some very, very nice people. They just choose drugs for what they're doing. You're trying to find the good ones. You're trying to pick your route where it's going to be the decent ones. But every now and again, you find someone that's not quite so good, and you think, "Oh, that was a mistake. I'll avoid that one." That's a really dangerous path. So you're never really making the money you want to do, because for me, I was just trying to making a couple of quid to exist. And then I got into cocaine in 2002, and because the ecstasy market had just fallen on its ass. It was dead. And cocaine came on the scene for me. I partnered up with another guy, and we just jumped on it, and yeah, it just took off. It went absolutely nuts. I wasn't selling loads of the stuff, but I was involved in it heavily. I was delivering it for other people. I was selling about a quarter key for myself when I first started. Just started banging out in ounces, and I think it just built from there. But it was just up and down constantly. It was never. It started going really well back into 2003. I was bringing in a good few quid, and then it went belly up. 2005, it just got very difficult, and I think I'd lost a few customers because there was an arrest, very close proximity to myself, someone up in Birmingham area, and that kind of just put a big cat amongst the pigeons, and it just scattered everyone, and I kind of had to rebuild things, but it was really dying. It was dying a death. And then it kind of started showing signs of potentially picking up again, and in the end of 2005, and by this time I'd had a small business running. This is when the book comes into play, and then it went completely tits up again in 2006, which is when the book really comes into play with Charlie for Killer, because I lost a huge load, and that cost me 80 grand, and I had to then start paying that off. So once I got through
a lot of bad people breathing down your neck at that point.
It was just one particular person. He wasn't really an issue, but the problem was, if I owe money, I owe money. That's it. I'm in debt, and I have to pay that debt. I'd never run from a debt. So I had to do some really shitty things to pay that money off, and that's what the next book's about as well. So it's really difficult, and I won't go into too much because I don't want to give it away, but it means going overseas and meeting up with people from maybe South America and that sort of thing. But what happened then was that then accelerated my business, because I was meeting interesting people, and I was so into it. And by this time we had our second son as well in 2005, so that was really difficult. I wasn't really I was a great dad, but I was never there mentally for my sons, because it's too much stress. I was too busy dealing with these massive debts. So once the debt is paid off, and I finally didn't have to pay the money I was making to pay this debt, I finally got money in my pocket again, and I thought, right, now's the time to get out. So let's form an exit strategy. So literally the debt was paid off at the back end of 2007. It took like 18 months to clear it. And then I set the company up in the beginning of 2008, which is Launch Motorsport, my motorsport company. I thought, right, let's do this. And then the plan was set to build a business clientele. But the difficult thing was there's also a credit crunch at that time. There was no money. Everyone was dying. Everyone was dying financially. Things were shutting down all over the place. And there was me, this really successful company set up in front of all this everyone was going that way and I was going this way.
Yeah.
Couldn't look good. So I was trying my best to make it not look too successful and slowly build it. And people say on social media, so, couldn't you launder more money? So no, because it wouldn't look right. I had to do it really carefully.
Yeah, everything collapsed then, housing market, everything.
Yeah, that's right. I must have kept the motorsport companies going. They were rubbing their hands because they were, and I now look back and think, why were they so glad to see my custom? Because no one else was bringing the money in. So clearly, they were happy to receive my money at the time.
What was your missus at the time thinking, like, if you were travelling abroad to do these things?
Well, fortunately, I said I was still doing surveillance and CP work. So I've always had this sort of like alter ego that I was doing bodyguard work or surveillance work, or I was doing some sort of job over in Spain or something. So I could always get away with it. It was always plausible for me. I said, look, I can't tell you much about it. It's a CP job. You know, I can't tell you who I'm looking after. Or I can't tell you who I'm doing the surveillance on. It's confidentiality. And it was a case of ask no questions, don't tell any lies. And she got used to that being my life because everything I was doing, I always had this other life that I was hiding from her. So and that was always plausible. It was my surveillance.
Yeah.
Because I was still doing that when I met her. I was still kind of just about hanging on the odd job every now and again. So yeah, it was horrible. So she never really questioned the extra money that came in because it was always going to be we really well paid for this work overseas, or really well paid for this surveillance job, and they're paying in cash. So it was plausible at the time, or it seemed to be to me, and she's not going to question if there's suddenly a few £100 or a couple of grand knocking around, and suddenly she's got a nice car and. No one's going to question that.
They're just going to enjoy it and not think too much.
They're going to question it when you got to take it off and sell it because it's gone tits up.
Yeah.
But they're not going to question, thanks, it's a lovely gift. You know, we're going on holiday. That's really nice. So
things must be really bad. He's got loads of money at the minute.
Yeah.
That's never said, is it?
I know. Well, yeah, when the bills are being paid, because she went through the tough times when I was in debt and we had nothing. You know, she went through it when I was suicidal. She was dealing with the fact I said I've lost because my excuse for me trying to kill myself to her was I'd lost the business, you know, and because I was attacked at my place of work, but again, which in the book, and I had to get a few stitches in my eye. It was because I said I was robbed down at the business, so I said I've had to shut it down because of the threat, and I said all that has triggered my PTSD, and you know, and that's when I said I had my mental breakdown. So I was on the happy pills for about 6 months, and you know, so it was messy, but she rode through that storm with me, so. She's not going to question it when the money's coming in. She's going to be thankful that there's somewhat to spend for a change. You can buy some bags,
yeah,
and some shoes. So yes, the exit strategy was formulated. It was that was it. Build the garage, get that set. We're into 2009 now. Everything's going. 2009 was a really good year. It was really good. It was lots of track days, lots of building a client base, lots of competing with Time Attack and everything else. And then 2010 I went pro and I was doing Time Attack saloon racing. I was working with the team in the British Drift Championship. I ran 3 cars in the BDC, which was amazing. And I thought, this is my life. This is it. I finally found something to replace the drugs because it gives me the excitement. It gives me structure. It's not making money yet, but it will. It will make money because I'm good at driving. I could win a few races. The drifters are good at driving. We can do this. This is going to work. And I loved it. I loved going away. I loved going to the tracks. And for me, it was my way forward. And so I had the garage redeveloped. So we took on this. I took on a lease for this this unit, which needed a bit of work going into it. And I spent everything I had. I borrowed money to get it up and running. Sold everything I had to make it. And that's when it came on top. And people started getting arrested in the back end of 2010. And that was the fall beginning to happen. The dominoes were beginning to fall.
Was it like people giving names at that time then to try and...
Yeah, there's a lad that was part of my organisation. I'm 99% sure it's him. I can't be 100% because you never can, but 99% sure it's him. And he's been arrested for something associated with what he's doing, and he's just rolled over on us. We didn't know at the time. In hindsight, it was obvious, but at the time we thought, how is this happening?
Yeah.
Guys don't get nicked. We're really careful. But most big conspirators get arrested because of an informant. The police don't stumble across conspiracies. If they're really, really lucky, they might stumble across a runner, which has been really unlucky. But the big firms doing really well. They've got there because you're employing people who are being sensible. You're not making mistakes. Your cars are all taxed and insured. There's no reason to pull someone over in a car and stop them for drugs if they're completely legal. As long as they're not sniffing coke off the dashboard, they should be fine.
Yeah, wearing a seatbelt and doing it all like just the simple.
Make sure the lights are working. Make sure your brake lights are working. Make sure the car's MOT. Don't have a clone car stolen for someone else. You just do it properly. You don't get randomly pulled over. So when the guys were getting it, they're thinking, "This ain't right." And then I was just waiting. I was just waiting for for my arrest, which came the following April 2011. That's when I got nicked.
So you formulated the exit strategy, but you didn't implement it, did you?
No, I'd implemented it, but I was literally, the door was open. I stepped through the door, and I was about to close it. Literally, I opened the garage the 1st of October 2010. The investigation started the 23rd of September. So they knew I was stepping out. They knew that I was going. So they think we've got to do this now whilst there's some evidence going. Because the plan was the guy that was going to manage it for me, who was also the informant, I believe, was going to give me a retainer to keep the garage going until such time as the garage was self-sufficient. It could have been a couple of months. It could have been a couple of years. I just don't know. So he was going to give a retainer. So that was necessary for a few months. So during that retention period, that's when the police were doing their main investigation. They'd been watching me on and off for about a year, because he must have given me a name back into 2009 when his thing had gone wrong.
Do you know they're looking at you then?
No,
is their surveillance pretty good then when it comes to?
No, they didn't have any. They had very little footage of me, very little surveillance of me, because my character surveillance was really good. When I'm driving, I'm not being followed. There's no way I'm being followed. So there was very little of that. But what there was a couple of, I'd say, ropey photographs of me in a John Lewis car park at Cribbs Causeway through a bush chatting to someone, which it's a picture of me chatting to someone. It's classed as a clandestine meeting. It wasn't in the middle of a car park, but it was a dodgy meeting nonetheless. We were talking about money, I think. So that was, add that to everything else they've got, it kind of builds a fairly good picture. So yeah, they didn't have a great deal on me, but what they did have was enough to sort of add a little bit of theatre to the prosecution's case.
So when you got arrested then in April, like, what was going through your head?
I think it was shock. Not a lot goes through initially. It was kind of like, well, let's take this one step at a time. So I think it was relief, knowing that finally that's it. It's here. At last, I can shut down. But I think it was more so anything else. It was like nothing. My mind goes blank. It was just I'm just paving the way, ready for what comes next. So I thought, let's not analyse it, let's not think about it, let's just take this one step at a time and see where it goes. And literally it was just like, right, let's get to the ride back of the police car, the police station, the checking in with the custody sergeant, being put in the cell for the first time, eating the lasagna dinner they gave me, which I was starving hungry. So I enjoyed it. It was terrible, but I enjoyed it. Then you finally get your fingerprints and your palm prints and your DNA, and then I'm thinking, I hope nothing has been pulled in the last 10 years with my dabs on it, because that's going to show more, but nothing came up. So, and then you wait for the interview. You're waiting for that. So that whole process is one step at a time. Yeah, it's just literally systematic, waiting for it to come through in some sort of sequential order.
So like, what sort of were you put on like remand then, or?
No, I was bailed, which surprised me and the police. They came out and the whoever their governor at top had said, no, bail him. And we know why I was bailed, because they wanted to watch me to see what my movements were going to be. They knew I wasn't going to be a risk of flight because I had the wife and kids. So they bailed me. I had to bail the following month. They charged me the following month, which was in the May, and they bailed me again. And then I thought, well, that's it. I'm charged. I've got to do a trial. So I thought, well, if the garage is still open, I was just working and getting on with it. And then the second arrest came from Gloucestershire Soccer. That was in the July, like about 2 months later on. And they nicked me and took me out to their place and interviewed me again. And they bailed me for a week, and then they went back to answer bail a week later, and then they remanded me. Stuck in Gloucester prison then in August 2011. So that was my first time in jail.
Yeah. Well, so in between, so when you were let out on bail, did your missus or anyone know at that point, or were you keeping it under?
Yeah, they knew, because the house was searched. So
okay.
So when the garage was searched where I was, and the house was searched, because I said to the policeman, I said, can I ring the missus to let her know what's going on? She said, I think she knows. I went, oh my God, the house being done. So then that's when the penny had dropped for her that what's going on. So then when I was bailed on the first arrest, I had to go home. I thought, oh God, I got to go home and try.
Was that one of the worst feelings?
Yeah, it's like, how do I deal with this? So we just sort of like, it was late. It was 1 in the morning. So she said, look, let's just talk about it tomorrow. And I literally got up, went straight to work. And I'll talk when I get home. And then I said, look, I don't know how it's come back. It's got to be a mistake. I'm kind of guessing. I said, look, is it to do with maybe someone's come to my garage and they're dodgy? I said, it must be a dodgy customer or something. You know, so I just winged it, and I just kind of just tried to, I just put her off the scent as best I could until I could hopefully get away with it. I didn't get away with it, but yeah, it was hard because I was having to lie even more then.
There's no going back then. That's the time to probably tell, or...
I think so. In hindsight, I would have been better. And I guess I feared losing her and the kids. Yeah. I think what's worse? How do I do this? Do I just keep lying? Do I keep lying, or do I just tell her the truth? And it was my dad, it was my mum, it was her parents, it was everyone that was shocked that I'd been arrested because no one knew. And I thought, well, I can't. I've been lying to them all this time. I'll just lie a little bit longer and just keep it going for a little bit more and see how it goes. But I kept it going, yeah, and I think I probably caused more damage by lying to them and not being straight than being honest. Because at the end of the day, by me not being honest, I ran a trial based on the fact I couldn't be honest with my family. Because I knew I was in trouble. I knew I was going to get found guilty, but I still ran a trial in the hope that I would get that slim chance that they might find me not guilty. I knew I had no chance, but I accepted another 5 years of sentence because I didn't want my family to find out. Because I thought, well, let's just hope, let's roll the dice. I took the risk. Yeah. I'm not even a gambler. I took the risk.
You went not guilty?
Yeah, I went not guilty on both counts. I did get a not guilty on one of the counts, which was fine, but I got guilty on the other one, which was the right result. But that's something in itself. Waiting for that plea to come through. You just sat there. That's the most intense. I think the 3.5 days of jury were deliberating after a 7-week trial. Waiting for that verdict to come through from the jury is horrendous.
7-week trial as well. I bet that was pretty.
Yes, when you see
building the tensions.
Yeah, when you see what they've got on you as well. When you see the jury bundle and the prosecution's case against you, you open this big fat folder and you think, oh, I'm in so much trouble. And you look at the evidence and you look at the cell site from the phone calls and the charts and all the. We never said anything in clear, but you look at the frequency of phone calls around particular arrests. You think, oh, this looks really bad. It's really bad for me. It's really bad for him. It's really bad for them. It's bad for all of us. You know, we were in so much trouble.
Yeah, and I suppose like you as well, obviously with like your background, pretty good at covering your tracks for the majority, I suppose. But yeah, you need that one person then to just spill the beans, and it becomes obvious. Then
that's it. As soon as there's an informant involved, and they're given the information, they're literally given everything, all the movements, the phone numbers, the vehicle registrations. You name it. It's all the numbers, the amounts we're picking up, where it's coming from, everything.
Yeah.
The whole lot. They had enough intel. And when you're arrested, when you start the interview, they say, we've received intelligence. Oh yeah, you've received intelligence. How do you receive that? And that means you've been told. Yeah. Someone's informed. So even the signs are there at the beginning. If the police say we've received intelligence, then you know that you've been informed upon. You know that they found you.
Yeah. Well, how do they even start down the rabbit hole of getting to you? And that's the question.
Yeah, so. That's it. It's got to be a spark. It's got to be a catalyst somewhere which makes it go. Yeah.
So like with the drugs and the crime, was there ever much like violence involved in it?
No, not from my end. No, not from my end. I'm a bit of a pacifist. I don't like violence. I'm not saying I'm not prepared if it's necessary, but I don't like it. I hate the thought of needing to be violent with people. I've managed to live in these really hostile environments, the army, security, door work, organised crime for 30 years, and I hate violence. I cannot stand it. And I've always kind of gone down the business route. It doesn't mean there's been times when I've been exposed to violence, or I've been witnessed violence, or I've actually had to threaten violence with people because maybe they've owed money or they're late with their bill. That's part of the course in that world. But because I'm so chilled out, when I started getting serious, they don't take me seriously. Yeah. And then when someone comes knocking on the door, I think, oh shit, he wasn't messing around. Yeah. You know, so yes, it's a vicious world, and I try my best to always avoid any form of violence, and I did really well. no one ever got physically hurt on my watch, if you like, when I'm doing something.
Yeah, or when you say so sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it never happened. And I could put my hand on heart and say, yeah, it never happened.
Yeah.
Which is quite good to go through.
Especially doing, what you were doing.
Yeah. Plenty of people around me in other circles of being extremely violent. And I'm talking ridiculous. And I know some really, really horrible people, or knew some really, really horrible people, which would do anything.
Yeah, so were you hooking up with people from other cities and different things like that?
Yeah,
so
well, my sort of liaisons, and I've worked with people from London and Birmingham and Liverpool, and that's the main routes. It was always down London or usually up in the Midlands somewhere.
Yeah.
Working with the guys in Liverpool is always indirectly, but they do things differently up there. Up in Liverpool, it's definitely a much more violent and less business-like. I'm not saying it's all the same, but there's certainly a reputation with guys from Liverpool.
Yeah.
I've had guys literally shitting themselves. I was collecting money up for some guy, and he said, "Have you got it yet?" I said, "No, I'm rounding it." I said, "Well, can you out?" So mate, I'm doing this for you. It's your money. I'm collecting your money for you. You're paying me. Don't pressure me. He said, "Yeah, but they're coming down." I said, "I don't care." I said, "I'm doing my best." He says, "Your customers, you get on their case. I'm not going to get on the case for you." So we had to collect about 10 or 15 grand. And he was terrified. And I said, I got it all in the end. And I met him in Clifton in Bristol. And he was absolutely bricking himself. He said, don't come too close. I said, why? He said, they're in that car there. I said, and I looked in the car, and there's like 4 or 5 lads, big lumps. And I said, what's the matter? He said, they need their money. I said, I owe him a lot more. He's a gambler. This guy's a gambler. He's bad with gambling. And he's obviously spending the money way before he's got it. He's calculating his potential profit, sticking on the horses, and then hoping to God that the money comes in on the following day or the following week. And he's hoping that anyone that owes him money isn't also a gambler, because a lot of gamblers in that game, and they will literally spend all the money. It will go, and it's not. People think that drug money is stuck at your nose or it's on habits. A lot of it is done on addictions, and a lot of it's gone through gambling.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of people like yourself who are just doing it purely for the buzz, and that buzz relates to gambling, drinking, partying, whatever it is. Like they're just transferring from one addiction to another.
Yeah, that's exactly right. My addiction is the risk. And that's exactly why I've done it, because when I initially got involved, it's because of the risk. It felt good. I'm enjoying this. I enjoyed the sense of euphoria that I would get when I would close a deal, when it had been successful, when I made a phone call and everything's gone smooth and everyone's back in, everyone's landed safe. Done it, great. Eventually that euphoria turns to like, oh, are we all okay? And then it's just pure stress. Then it's like, then it's relief that we've managed to all survive. So the buzz goes, and that's same with an addiction. You're no longer getting the thrill of winning. You're getting the fact, the relief that you've got through it. Yeah. And that's the addiction that I had, was risk-taking behaviour. It was horrendous.
Yeah, sounds pretty wild. And how do you cope with that now then? What do you do to avoid that?
Motorsport was my fix, because going on the track, I could go and do a track day once a month, or it was like every week when I could afford it. That was satisfying my risk-taking behaviour. Now I'm okay. I don't really feel the need to it. I can contain it, probably because I'm getting on a bit. I can contain it. I'm looking forward to getting on the track. I'm looking forward to getting the car running again. I'm looking forward to going out there and hopefully not making a complete idiot of myself and crashing the car. So, and I hope that, I was thinking about it today, I just hope that when I get back behind the wheel of the car and I drive it again, that I get the same thrill, because I used to get a real thrill driving that car, and I just hope that it's the same. So, but I won't know until it's running. Yeah. Maybe it'll be this year, hopefully in a couple of months' time.
Oh, I hope you do, mate. I hope you do. Hope nothing else fills the gap in the meantime.
I know. I can't think of anything. Well, to be fair, I'm so busy with everything that I'm doing, and with my day job and building my own business and the books and social media, that there's no time for any of it at the minute. Anyway, and I got a girlfriend who lives in London. I see my son on weekends. I don't have any spare days.
Yeah, I bet you get a ton of requests, do you?
A lot, yeah. I get a fair few. It's getting busier and busier, and I get a lot of things on. People asking for support for things. I had one the other day of someone's going to court and needs some support, some help, and I'm thinking, I'm doing my best, but I'm finding myself now running out of time. I'm thinking I'm working like 40 hours a week removals, and I'm coming in to requests on Instagram saying, mate, I need your help. This is happening. Can you do that? And I do something, and I think they don't even say thank you.
Yeah.
Do you know
Just
what?
expected, like,
Yeah, so I'm tightening things up now. I've just started off. I've set up a Patreon account where it's not as much for now, but I'm future proofing what I'm doing, because I know that there's going to come a time when the series of books are out and other things I'm doing. I'm going to be so busy that social media it won't fall away. It'll still be busy, but there's things I'm going to be doing which are going to be more exclusive. And I think there's a lot of really loyal followers out there who are really keen on my journey. And I'm going to start looking at subscribing people into this more unique package and providing something more better for them. You know, there's going to be merchandise, there's going to be new books, it's going to be tours, it's going to be events, and anything that people pay in towards that, it all goes to my veteran support anyway. So it's not money going in my pocket. The Patreon account is to support veterans. So the aim is to get that built up and offer these loyal followers a chance to be maybe part of an event I'm going to do, or come along on a tour for the books, or get some cheap merchandise. So I'm looking at other avenues now, and as well as part of that Patreon account is the one, I think it's 15 quid a month if they go for it. They get to have a consultation with me once a month for like 20 minutes and have a chat. So that would be normally, I would charge that for a consultation anyway. So part of the subscription is you get to have a chat with me for 15 minutes a month. If you've got an issue, go to court. If you're going to be going to prison, or you're stuck involved in drugs, you want to get out of it, or you know someone else, I'm there to provide that service now. You know, but it's now come to the point now I've got to monetize it, because I've got to pay the bills like anyone else.
Well, there's that, and there's also how much time have you got in it? You know,
yeah.
Even if you didn't have to do it to pay the bills,
yeah,
like at some stage there's got to be a barrier to entry, isn't there? Otherwise, you're going to do yourself a disservice, and you're going to get yourself ill or stressed again, or whatever it may be.
You're exactly right, and it's also the fact that if I'm spending an hour sort of mentoring someone, I could spend that hour chatting to my son.
Yeah,
I could spend an hour on writing my book. I could spend an hour doing something different. I could spend an hour doing my own work. Whereas I'm sacrificing an hour of my time, or 2 hours or 3 hours of some people, to try and get them out of a really tough spot. But I know that some people live in a tough spot. They might not have any money, and I don't always ask for payment. I say, well, look, just make a donation to my charity then. Just chuck a £5 in there or a £10 in there. Just say that you were thankful for what I've done. But there comes a time when I just won't have the time to do it. You know, so and that time is creeping up on me. It's creeping up.
No, I bet. Well, that's it. The more your following grows, the more it happens, isn't it? Like, I've only got, I don't know, like 1,400 people on Instagram or whatever. But there's always someone asking for something. You know, and I've got a really small following.
Yeah, and it builds up. And if you're a decent person, you don't want to let them down. You think, well, okay, I'll do my best.
That's it, isn't it?
And then
catches you out there, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then some point you think, I've got to start letting people down here. Or the only other option I'm going to have, which will happen as well, is there will come a point where and it will happen, is there will be a PA involved, and my social media will go through someone, and it'll be monitored, and it'll be then say, right, Rich, we got this, what we got, and that's where it's probably going to happen. I've already taken advice on some different things I'm doing, and we're building a new website in the future, and we're going to get everything housed under one roof, and that's going to then go. Everything I do will go through the website. So if it's an inquiry, it won't be through an Instagram message. It'll be an inquiry through the website, and it'll be monitored, and it'll be controlled by someone that'll be their job to do that.
You'd be surprised as well how many people that will stop from even messaging.
Yeah.
Because people don't like work. So like that extra couple of clicks for them to get through to that email, and then to have to check their email back from you. You'd be surprised how many people you'll lose probably.
And it will be a filter, and I don't like the thought of it. I hate the thought of being seen as someone that's just, he's changed, but unfortunately that's the direction things may go. And if it doesn't go that way, I will just maintain that radio silence if I like, just because I have time with my family and my kids. Because I'm sacrificing a lot of my own time to build this message I'm trying to put out there, and I'm happy to do that. But I've got a plan of there was a set plan and a date, if you like. It was a finite date that I'll be prepared to do this for, and that time is coming fairly soon. And my cut-off time was when I start my own podcast, which is going to be this month. I'll have to start looking at filtering things coming in. Doesn't mean I'm going to say no to anyone, but it means I'll have to start filtering things. So I can do this, but it's going to take 3 or 4 months. I'm not around yet, so
it's just showing yourself like self-respect as well in a way, and like a power of saying no is massive. Like it's good,
difficult.
You know, saying no to one opportunity may open up another door. Like it's not necessarily just shutting things off. It's actually opening your mind to focus on maybe another direction.
Yeah, you're right, and I think I've said yes to so much, and And I think there comes someone, I think, well, I've got to be honest to myself now and my own journey as well.
Yeah, I'm glad I got in there before the cut off.
You just made it.
Just made it, yeah. But so you went to prison. How many years did you get sentenced to?
So I got sentenced 15 years. And
wow, I bet
the
that
rules,
was
yeah, I was expecting about
heavy.
12 would have been, in my mind, I calculated 12, but 15 was like, oh, that's a bit of a kick in the nuts. But once you've broken it down, right, 7.5 years I've got to do. I've done 9 months on a tag with HTC whilst I was on bail, so that's okay. So that equated, after a bit of remand time, to pretty much 7 years, almost to the exact year to do in prison. I thought, right, okay, let's break it down. So the 2 of these in a Cat B, then we'll do some in a Cat C, then some in a Cat D, and you just mentally break it down in your head about what you're going to do, and you move on points. So you do it in stages. You don't think, right, I've got to do 7 years. Right, let's do 2 years. Let's get this 2 years out of the way first. So Cat B prison, Loudon Grange, great private jail, phones in your cells, showers in your cells, digital TV, single cell. You can't. Xbox, once you become enhanced, got the Xbox in there, and I killed so much time on Skyrim and Dead Island, and it was just great. I actually sat there thinking, I'm working hard during the day. I've got a proper job. I'm earning good money in prison. I'm eating relatively well. I've got my Xbox when I'm on my days off, which I'd work 6 days a week, mine, so I'd get 1 day off, and I'd be in the evenings, and it was all right. I was getting fit. I was being healthy. I really nailed the fitness in the first 6 months. I dropped all my weight off. In the first 6 months, it was gone. I was healthy, and then I got plateaued, and that was it. I was happy where I was. So yeah, the first 2 years were kind of just accepting the fact this is my life now for the next 7 years, and detaching myself from the outside world, because to really get on with that sentence, you can't remain attached to anything on the outside, because if you do, it'll just drive you mad. Your head will fall off. You'll be missing everyone. You'll struggle. Yeah. Christmases and birthdays and New Year's Eves, you're going to be in bits. So
it's not like doing 6 months, is it, where you can kind of still, your life's kind of still there. A lot changes, doesn't it?
And 6 months is a good figure that you brought up, because 6 months is the amount of time when, if you do an operational tour in the forces, usually 6 months. And you do that because it's when you go away, you compartmentalise your emotions. You shut off the outside to focus on your job. So after 6 months, it becomes problematic. That's why they say people who do back-to-back tours suffer problems. So yeah, shut your brain off for 7 years is a long time to not have any emotions for your family. So that comes into play later on. So yeah, the first 2 years at Loudon Grange, reboot my brain, rewire myself, get used to being me, and just try and improve myself for who I am and what my direction is. But I didn't have any real direction at that stage. I wasn't really thinking about what my plans were on the outside. Only when I got to Oakwood as a Cat C prisoner, I got a job representing veterans. And that changed it then. I started bumping into lads who'd served and suffered similar problems. People doing some stupid sentences for reasons they shouldn't even be in jail for, maybe associated with their mental health or anger issues, stuff that should have been addressed. And I got a job as a veterans rep. And this was really what changed my whole direction, I think. I thought, yeah, this is what I need to do now. I'm actually in there, I'm helping these lads, and I'm really enjoying helping these lads. Yeah. I'm making a difference. I'm helping to arrange events on the outside. We're doing a lot of stuff with various charities coming into the prison, and I can see the difference I'm making to them inside, and that's helping them, their families on the outside. So I created a program called Project TLS, which is basically assisting veterans during a transition. So when they come out of the forces, I'm there to support them. If they need to sit the program, I can deliver that. And the aim is to get that back into the prisons and start supporting veterans. So my job will be going back into prisons again. It was meant to be happening a couple of years ago with COVID, but that shut everything down, which is fair enough. It's given me a couple of years to get the book cracked to get it out there. So yeah, my aim now is, while I was in Vocal, was just really developing that relationship with the charities and the prisons and understanding how it worked and really taking that into play and bringing it to the outside of the prisons and supporting veterans.
Sounds like a great service, mate, to be honest. And
it's getting there. It's getting there.
Do you feel, though, that, like when you were selling the ecstasy in the club to your friends and then you're doing this now, do you always feel like you've had something that you've needed? had to be wanted or needed in some sort of fashion?
I think so. Do you know what, for me, I think it's about, weird thing is, I like seeing people smile, whether it's because they're off their tits on ecstasy, or whether it's because I'm helping them. And I guess I like, this might sound weird, but I love the thought of helping people. I've got morals, although I did all these really stupid things, and I'm actually a very moral person, and I like the thought that if I've helped someone through something, then that's a good thing. That makes me feel good. And whether it be, like, say, selling them a pill, making their night at the time, not condoning it, but at the time it made sense, or whether it's because I've managed to get them in touch with a charity that's just got their wife a new washing machine because it's broke down, I get a feel-good factor from that, and I benefit from that. And that's what drives me through now, is to know that my efforts of taken all that negativity in the past, I've managed to sort of apply it in a different direction, and I'm now using that to support people, because I can identify the problems, I can relate to people with their problems, and I know how to help them now. So yeah, it's very, very rewarding by doing that, and it's life changing for me. It gives me a boost in the morning. I get up with a smile, and I'm always happy no matter what, because I know that, one, I'm not in prison anymore, and second, I'm helping people out.
Yeah, mate. I think we've all got that in us, whether we've like ignited it or not. Because I know if I've ever helped someone, if someone comes to me and they're struggling with their mental health or whatever, and we just have a chat, and they say, I feel so much better after that. It also makes me feel so much better after that. Do you know what I mean? It is like, and you can't not, it's really hard, like you were saying, it's really hard to turn someone away when they're feeling like that and say, I haven't got time. Like, it's really hard to do that. And you do find you do give a lot of yourself at the same time. But
and I think it's understanding what your capacity and where your limits are as well. Is if you know you can't claim to be the expert in everything, but say, look, actually, no, I can't help with that, but I know who can. I'm going to signpost you. And that's what may happen with my support, is there may be a referral. You say, look, right, what do you need? You know, what's your problem? It's this, right? Okay, well, I can't do that, but here you go. Oh, so-and-so can help you out with that.
Yeah.
Do a bit of signposting. So I think I'd never look back and point blank refuse someone. I think if I may not be able to assist them directly, but I may know someone that can, you know, and it's understanding your limits. And also know if you're taking on people's negativity, in a sense, that can weigh you down. You have to have the chance to offload yourself. You need to be able to have someone to talk to and talk about what you've been through in confidence. Say, like, yeah, I've had a really tough one. I've been dealing with something which is really traumatic, and it's weighing me down. And the Samaritans do that. That's what they're trained to do. When I was in prison, we were trained by the Samaritans to be a listener, and we support prisoners during their crisis, and we listen to what they're going through. And every month we sit down with the Samaritans, we say, yeah, we've had a bad one, we need to offload. Yeah. And that's what you do. You have the chance to air your own emotions and tell them how you're feeling about someone else's trauma. So it's important to understand that you've got a limit. Being an agony aunt is great, but it's also, it can weigh you down, and it can become problematic for yourself.
Yeah, well, you naturally become or consume what you're surrounded by as well, don't you?
Yeah.
So it seeps in, doesn't it? It's like it's like someone splashing you with their paint when they're doing that, and you're absorbing the colour, innit?
Yeah, definitely. And if you're at work, we find that if you're at work and you've got the people that are moaning all the time, you start moaning yourself.
Yeah.
I don't moan, but this guy's been moaning all day, and now I'm finding myself whinging as well because he's having a good moan. So you do tend to sort of, and if you've got empathy, and you're very, very sort of outward thinking, you do tend to pick up on people's emotions, and you absorb that. You're right, and you tend to, you might begin to exhale it yourself.
Yeah, you kind of adapt and become, don't you? It's like you was with this. If you were doing the 6 months in prison, you can see your old life, and you can aspire to get back to that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do the 7 years, you become the prisoner, don't you? So like it's like that kind of thing. If you've got enough exposure, eventually you're going to become what you surround yourself with.
You become comfortable. And the weird thing is, when I was in prison, after 6 months, I was comfortable in that environment. And after 7 years, it is your environment. You are at home with it, and you're at home with the people, the noises. I went back into a prison yesterday to talk to the people about my course going in there, and I felt uncomfortable. And although the prison is fairly new and there's not many people in it, I still felt out of place, which is good. Because it means I didn't belong there anymore. And it was nice walking out again at the end of the day. So, I'm looking forward to going back in again. I'm looking forward to the potential of me having the chance to support veterans while they're in prison. But I'm loving the fact they've been on the walk out of there every day.
Yeah, I bet.
That'd be nice.
I bet. So what's the name of the podcast?
It's called Through Adversity. So it's my motto when I wrote my course, Project TLS. Someone said you need to get a Latin motto because it's very military, and I said, all right, okay. And I thought, I don't know what I'm going to get. So luckily there was a lovely lady working in the visiting centre in Oakwood. She said, I've got some friends at Cambridge and they're scholars of Latin. Said, give us some information about your course, and they'll come up with a motto for it. I said, oh, that's great. So some weeks later on, she said, oh yeah, they've come up with something for you. And it's per ardua ad meliora, which means through adversity to better things. And I did a bit of a competition on TikTok, saying, if anyone come up with a name for it, and I'll name that. And everything was very sort of, I could put it, engineered towards either the criminality or the army. And I thought, no, it's just more than that. And I thought, through adversity, I'll go for that, because it means anyone that's survived a traumatic time or has been through a tough time and is able to articulate that journey, then that's the people I want to speak to. But as well as doing it on the move, mobile. So the aim is to take someone, let's say someone's been involved in a horrendous car crash and they survived it. Maybe they've lost limbs, maybe they've survived it, but they're there to tell the story. We might come visit the scene of the accident. So we'll go in the car, we'll talk about it en route, let's go to that, and maybe that might be the first time they've been there.
Wow.
And let's talk about it. How do you feel? What do you remember about this? So it's going to be like a combination of a documentary but podcast. So the dialogue will flow constantly. But I've got an external cameraman and a GoPro, so what will happen is we will keep talking like me and you have talked, like a constant interview, but it will mean us getting out of the car. We might go and grab a coffee, we might go drive through at the time. So we're going to have this little journey, a bit like the thing, like the car share thing. You know, I'm not sure. I think it was
James Corden.
James Corden.
Yeah. But with a serious tone.
Yeah, so a bit of a combination of a few different things. I'm trying to, because there's so many really good podcasts, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's so many good sort of creators out there doing some really good stuff, and I thought, I'm just going to be bolted onto the side of everyone else's, so I need to do it differently. If I'm going to do it, I've got to do it totally different. It may fall flat on its ass, but I'm going to give it a go and see how it goes.
Could be the next big thing. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, man. I hope it works out for you anyway.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, if there's anything I can do to help along the way or whatever, give us a shout.
You just have by talking about it.
Yeah, there we are. Here we are. Rightio, Rich. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on the end, or if you.
No, I'm happy. I just appreciate being here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming, mate. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Cheers. Really appreciate that.
Take care, mate.
Yeah, go follow Rich on Instagram. Follow his new podcast when it comes out, and when it comes out, mate, let me know. We'll share it about and
yeah, definitely.
Get cracking.
Nice one. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. See you all soon.
Experience Real Podcast.